Unit 3, Introduction to OS and Process Management. So first is process. So what is process? Process is basically a program while it is being executed. A process is more than a program code. It consists of one is the value of program counter, second context of CPU register, process tags containing temporary data such as function parameter, return address and local variables. Next, the data section containing global variables, program code, and dynamically allocated memory during runtime. So, an operating system executes a variety of programs such as batch system, jobs, and time shared system, user programs or tasks. The textbook uses the terms jobs and the process almost interchangeably. So, process is a program in execution. Process execution must progress in sequential fashion. So process consists of program counter, stack and data section. As the process executes, it changes the state. So first is a new, that is the process is being created. Second is running, so instructions are being executed. Third one is waiting, the process is waiting for some event to occur. Next, ready means the process is waiting to be assigned to a process. Next is terminated, that is the process has finished the execution. So a program in itself is not a process. A program is a passive entity, whereas a process is an active entity. A program becomes a process when an executable program is loaded into memory. In time shared system, several users' programs reside in computer's memory. Each user is allocated only a fraction of CPU time, that is time slab, at a time for his program. When CPU executes a program or command, a process is created. When one process stops running because it has taken its share of CPU time, another process starts. When process is temporarily suspended, the information about it is stored in a memory so that its execution could start from the same location where from it was suspended. In many operating systems, all information about each process is stored in a process table. Operating system also provides a several system call to manage a processes. These systems calls are mainly to create and kill the process. So, next is a process control. The operating system creates a process to execute a user program. Every operating system provides some way of creating a process. In Unix, the processes are created by fork system call. The operating system performs the following actions when a new process is created. So the first action is it creates a process control block, that is PCB for the process. Second, it assigns a process ID and priority. Third, it allocates memory. Fourth, sets up the process environment for execution. Next, it initializes the resource accounting information for the process. Next is process states. So the lifetime of the process can be divided into several stages as states, each with certain characteristics that describe the process. It means that as the process starts executing, it goes through one state to another state. Each process may be one of the following state, that is new, ready, running, blocked and terminated, which is already we have seen it. So new means the process is being created, running means instructions are being executed, waiting means process is waiting for some event to occur, ready means the process is waiting to be assigned to a process, and terminated means the process has finished the execution. So a general form of the process state transition diagram is shown here. So here new means process has been created. Next is ready. Ready means the process is waiting to be allocated to a processor. So the process comes to this state immediately after it is created. All ready processes are kept in a queue. A program called scheduler, which is a part of the operating system, picks up one ready process for execution by passing control to it. Running means a CPU is currently allocated to the process and the process is getting executed. So a running process is blocked if there is input output request during the execution, and second, a running process is sent to the ready queue after the time slab is over. After the time slab, the scheduler may schedule another process from the ready queue for the execution. Then blocked means the process is waiting for the completion of some input output activity. Such processes are normally not considered for the execution until the related blocking condition is fulfilled. The running process becomes blocked by invoking input output routines whose result is needed during the execution. And the last one is terminated, means the process has finished its execution. Now in this diagram, blocked is shown by the waiting, now the process control block, that is PCB. The information associated with each process is process state, program counter, CPU register, CPU scheduling information, memory management information, accounting information, and input output status information. So this diagram shows the process control block, which consists of pointer, process states, process number, program counter, that is PC, register, memory limits, and list of open file. Next is CPU switch from process to process. So this diagram shows the CPU switch from process to process. It consists of the process, operating system, and process P1. Now process P0 is executing. The operating system consists of interrupt or system call, save state into PCB, reload state, also the save state into PCB1, that is process 1, and again it is reload state from process 0. Now the process P1 consists of 3 states: idle state, executing, and idle state. Next is process implementation. A data structure called the process control block is used by the operating system to keep the track of all information concerning a process. The operating system maintains a table of process control block with one entry per process. The process control block contains many pieces of information associated with a specific process, which consist of first one, the process number, that is here each process is identified by its process number called process ID. Next is priority. Third one is the process state. So each process may consist of these states, that is new, ready, running, blocked and terminated. Next is program counter. So the program counter gives the address of the next instruction to be executed for this process. Register. It consists of accumulator, general purpose register, index register, segment register, etc. Whenever the processor switches over from one process to another, the information about a current status of the old process is saved into PCB, that is process control block, so that the process may be restarted later on. Next is the process scheduling. The process scheduling consists of some sub-functions. In that, first is scheduling, second dispatching, and third is context save. So scheduling means select the process to be executed next on the CPU. The process scheduling queues means it consists of job queue, that is set of all the processes in the system. Next is ready queue, that is set of all the processes residing in main memory ready and waiting to execute. Next is device queue, set of processes waiting for an input output device. Next is process migration between the various queues. So this diagram shows the representation of process scheduling. First is the ready queue, which is given to the CPU. Then it is given to the input output request, time slice expired. So this is a diagram for representation of process scheduling. Process scheduling is a fundamental operating system function. It is a set of policies and mechanisms supported by operating system that control the order in which the work to be done is completed. So scheduler is an operating system program that selects the next job to be admitted for the execution. There are performance criteria that are frequently used by the scheduler to maximize the system performance. These are CPU utilization, throughput, turnaround time, waiting time, and response time. In addition to maximization of system performance, the operating system should take into account the fairness, that is, each process gets its fair share of the CPU. CPU utilization means the idea is to keep the CPU busy 100% of the time. Throughput means it refers to the number of processes executed per unit time. Turnaround time means it is defined as the interval from the time of submission of a process to the time of its completion. Waiting time means the waiting time may be expressed as the turnaround time less than the actual processing time. So in multi-programming operating system, several jobs reside at a time in the memory. The CPU executes only one job at a time. The rest of the job wait for the CPU. And the last one, response time, means it is an important parameter in time sharing system. It is defined as the interval from the time the last character of a command line of a program is entered to the last result appear on the terminal. Throughput and CPU utilization may be increased by executing a large number of processes, but then response time may suffer. Therefore, the scheduler must keep balance of all the different requirements and constraints. Now there are some types of scheduler. There are three types: long term, medium term and short term. The long term scheduler is also called as a job scheduler, and it determines which jobs shall be admitted for the processing. There are always more processes than it can be accommodated by a CPU in the memory. These processes are kept waiting in the large storage devices like disk for the later processing. Whenever process finishes, a long-term scheduler is called. It selects a new process from among the waiting process using SJF or FCFS strategy. The long-term scheduler should maintain a proper mixture of CPU bound and input-output jobs in the ready queue. If all the processes are input-output bound, then the ready queue will always be empty. And if all the processes are CPU bound, then the system response will become poor. Next is the short-term scheduler. It allocates a process belonging to a ready queue to CPU for immediate processing. The short-term scheduler is very often called at the end of time stamp and called in case of input-output request. And medium-term scheduler, most of the processes require input-output operation. In that case, it may become suspended for input-output operation after running a while. It is beneficial to remove these processes from main memory to hard disk to create more memory for other processes. At some later time, these processes can be reloaded into the memory and the suspended processes are swapped out and in by medium-term scheduler. So, the short-term scheduler is invoked very frequently, that is in milliseconds, which must be fast. The long-term scheduler is invoked very infrequently. It is in seconds or minutes. It is slow, and the long-term scheduler controls the degree of multiprogramming. The process can be described as input-output bound process, that is, it spends more time doing input-output than computation and many short CPU bursts. And second is the CPU bound process, that is, it spends more time doing computations, few very long CPU bursts. Next is the context switch. When CPU switches to another process, the system must save the state of the old process and load the saved state for the new process. The context switch time is overhead. The system does no useful work while switching. The time independent on hardware support. Next is process creation. The parent process creation children processes, which in turn create other process, forming a tree of process. Resource sharing means the parent and children share all resources. Second is the children share the subset of parents' resource. And third one is the parent and children share no resource. And the execution means both execute concurrently. And second is parents wait until children terminate. So this is the execution part. Next is process termination. The process executes last statement and asks the operating system to decide it to exit the output data from the child to parent via wait, and the process resources are deallocated by operating system. The next part is parent may terminate execution of children process. So the child has exceeded allocated resources. Task assigned is no longer required. Next is cooperating processes. Independent process cannot affect or be affected by the execution of another process. Cooperating process can affect or be affected by the execution of another process. And the advantages of process cooperation. The first advantage is information sharing. Second one, computation speed up. Third one, modularity. And fourth one, convenience. Scheduling method consists of the CPU scheduling algorithm deals with the problem of deciding which of the processes in a ready queue to be allocated the CPU. So scheduling algorithm can be classified into two categories: the primitive scheduling and non-primitive scheduling. In primitive scheduling, the CPU can be taken away from the processes. A process can be temporarily suspended due to request for input output, and second is time slab is over. In non-primitive scheduling, a process runs to its completion. Once a process has been given the CPU cannot be taken away from that process. So non-primitive algorithms are simple and easy to implement. These algorithms are not suitable in multi-user environment. So some of the common scheduling algorithms consist of first come first serve scheduling, that is FCFS, shortest job first scheduling, that is SJF, round robin scheduling, SJF with primitive scheduling, and priority scheduling. So first come first serve scheduling means it is a long-term scheduling algorithm. It is one of the simplest scheduling algorithm. Its implementation involves maintaining a queue of arriving jobs. Whenever CPU is free, new job from the ready queue is assigned to the CPU. Once a process has the CPU, it runs to the completion. So this type of algorithms is simple to implement. This algorithm results in poor performance, average turnaround and waiting time are quite high. It meets the fairness criteria of scheduling, and this algorithm cannot be used in time sharing system where it is important that each user gets a share of the CPU at regular interval. It is not desirable to allow one process to keep the CPU for a long time. Next, shortest job first scheduling. Here, a job with the shortest execution time is selected for the execution. If two processes have the same CPU time, then FCFS is used. That is, first come first serve scheduling is used. So this algorithm is an optimal scheduling algorithm in terms of minimizing the average waiting time and the average turnaround time. This algorithm does not guarantee fairness. If shorter jobs keep joining the ready queue, then a relatively longer job may have to wait infinitely. The optimal performance of SJF scheduling is dependent upon a future knowledge of the process or job behavior. It is very difficult to estimate the exact CPU time requirement of a job or process. Next, round robin scheduling. Here, it is primarily used in time sharing and multi-user system. The basic requirement is such a system is to provide reasonably good response time and in general to share the system fairly among all system users. In this type of scheduling, the CPU time is divided into slices or quantum. Each process is allocated one time slice when it is running. The process is given one time slice at a time for the execution. After the end of time slice, the process goes to the end of ready queue and process from the front of ready queue is selected for the execution. Here the time slice is usually 10 to 100 milliseconds. Setting the quantum to a short causes to many process switches and lowers the CPU efficiency. Setting the quantum too long may cause a poor response to a short interactive request. Round robin scheduling utilizes the system resources in an equitable manner. Small process may be executed in a single time slice giving good response time, whereas long process may require several time slices and thus it is forced to pass through a ready queue a few times before completion. SJF with preemption scheduling. It is a primitive version of SJF. In this type of scheduling, the scheduler always select a process for execution with the shortest expected remaining processing time. A process is preempted after the time slab, that is quantum. The next process to be scheduled for the execution is based on shortest expected remaining processing time. And the last one is priority scheduling. It is a primitive scheduling method. Each process is assigned a priority. Among the runnable process, one with the highest priority is allowed to run first. To prevent high priority process from waiting indefinitely, the scheduler may decrease the priority of the currently running process after every time slab. It is often necessary to group process into a priority classes. Round robin scheduling is used within each priority class. next part of the so this is all about the processes, the process control, process states, process implementation, scheduling,